Your shoulders dropped about half an inch the last time someone texted you to cancel dinner plans. You felt it. That little exhale you didn't realize you were holding. The weight lifting off your chest like someone just removed a backpack full of rocks you'd been carrying around all day. And then came the guilt, right after the relief. Because you're supposed to be disappointed when plans fall through. You're supposed to feel sad about missing out on connection and fun and all that social energy everyone else seems to run on. But you don't. You feel like you just got parole. Here's what nobody's telling you, that relief isn't a character flaw. It's not social anxiety or depression or some psychological damage you need to fix. It's information. Your body just told you something true about how you're actually built, and you've been apologizing for it your entire life. Why does being yourself require so much lying? Notice what happens right now when you think about your next social obligation, the one already on your calendar, the thing you committed to 3 weeks ago when it seemed far enough away to be safe. Your stomach tightens. Not much, just a little clench. A small signal that your body knows, something your mind keeps trying to ignore. You're going to show up. You always do. You'll be charming and engaged, and you'll laugh at the right moments and ask interested questions, and nobody will know that every minute you're there. Some invisible meter is running down inside you, draining, emptying out. And when you finally get home, you'll need 3 hours of absolutely nothing just to feel human again. This isn't about being shy. Shy people want to connect but feel scared. You don't feel scared in social situations. You feel tired. The same way someone feels tired after running a marathon, except you've been sitting at a dinner table for 2 hours making conversation about jobs and vacations and the traffic on the way over. Your nervous system treats other people like work. Not because you hate them, not because you're damaged or cold or antisocial, because your body is actually processing their presence as something that costs energy instead of something that gives it back. Every smile, every response, every moment of engaging with another human being requires fuel, and your tank is smaller than you've been pretending. Everyone told you this was normal. Oh, everyone gets tired after socializing, they said. That's just being human. Except they're wrong about what they're experiencing. When most people say they're tired after a party, they mean they're physically exhausted from standing around. Maybe they drank too much. Maybe they stayed up too late. The social part didn't drain them. The logistics did. For you, the social part is the drain. You can feel the difference right now if you pay attention. Think about the last time you spent 3 hours alone doing something you actually wanted to do. Reading, thinking, working on a project, just staring out a window. How did you feel after? Settled. Maybe even energized. Now think about the last time you spent 3 hours with people you genuinely like, people you chose to be around. How did you feel after that? Depleted. See the pattern? Your body's been trying to tell you this for years, and you keep explaining it away. You keep pretending you're just introverted, which everyone treats like a personality quirk instead of actual biological wiring. You keep pushing through the exhaustion because that's what functional adults do. They show up, they participate, they maintain relationships, even when it feels like pushing a boulder uphill. But here's the thing nobody mentions. You weren't designed to push boulders uphill. Some people recharge through connection. Their nervous system actually gains energy from being around others. The stress chemicals that flood their system during solitude start to settle when they're in a crowd. They genuinely feel more alive, more energized, more themselves when they're surrounded by other humans. That's not a better way to be built. It's just different wiring. Your wiring runs backwards from theirs. When you're in a group, your body floods with stress chemicals, not panic chemicals, not fear hormones, just the steady drip of your system saying, this costs more than we're making back. And your brain has to work overtime to track all the social signals, all the conversational threads, all the faces and tones and unspoken rules about when to talk and when to listen, and how to look interested without appearing too intense or not engaged enough. When you're alone, that all stops. The chemicals settle. The tracking stops. Your brain finally gets to rest instead of performing. And that's when you actually access the parts of yourself that think clearly, create freely, and feel most real. You've been calling that hiding. What if it's actually returning? Think about how you learned to fake being a social person. Nobody sat you down and taught you explicitly. You just watched what energized people did, and you copied it. The enthusiasm, the eagerness to make plans, the way they talked about Friday night like it was some kind of reward instead of an endurance test. You learned to mirror their energy even though it didn't match your internal experience. And you got good at it. So good that people now expect you to be that person. The one who shows up, participates, stays till the end. They have no idea you're performing. They think this is just who you are. But you know different. You know that every social interaction has a cost you're tracking in the back of your mind. Every conversation is spending from an account that doesn't refill the way you've been told it should. And you've learned to ration your presence so carefully that it looks like choice instead of survival. I can't tonight. I have work stuff. Maybe next time. I'm exhausted this week. That sounds great, but I need to check my schedule. All the polite ways of saying, I don't have enough left to give you what you expect from me. Here's what changed in human history that nobody talks about. Isolation used to be dangerous. For most of our species' existence, being alone meant being vulnerable. If you wandered away from the tribe, you got eaten by something bigger and faster than you. If you didn't contribute to the group's survival, the group stopped feeding you. Your wiring, this preference for solitude, would have been actively selected against because it would have killed you before you reproduced. But that was then. Now isolation is optional. You can survive perfectly well without a tribe. You can feed yourself, shelter yourself, protect yourself without depending on a group's collective effort. Technology made solitude viable in a way it never was before, except the social programming didn't update. Society still treats solitude like failure, like something you settle for when you can't manage real connection. The whole structure of modern life is built around the assumption that humans are social creatures who thrive in groups and wither in isolation. And for most people, that's probably true. For you, it's backwards. You thrive in isolation. You wither in groups. But you've been pretending otherwise for so long that you've almost convinced yourself the exhaustion is normal. It's not normal for you. It's just common because everyone around you is built differently. Watch what happens in your body right now. You're alone. Listen to this. Maybe you're walking, maybe you're driving, maybe you're just sitting somewhere nobody's demanding your attention. Check your shoulders, your jaw, your breathing. Everything's looser than it was 3 hours ago when you were around other people. That's not relaxation. That's your nervous system finally stopping the performance. Here's how you know this is your actual wiring and not damage. Think about the last time you did your best creative work. The last time you solved a hard problem, had a genuine insight, or made something you were actually proud of. Were you alone? Of course you were, because that kind of thinking requires depth. It requires uninterrupted focus. It requires that you follow threads all the way down without someone else's voice pulling you back to the surface every 30 seconds. Groups are terrible for depth. They're great for collaboration, for energy exchange, for certain kinds of problem solving that require multiple perspectives. But they're absolutely terrible for the kind of sustained, solitary concentration that produces original thought. And you need that concentration the way other people need social connection. It's not a luxury for you. It's not me time or self-care or any of those terms that make it sound optional. It's the core requirement for your brain to function at capacity. Without it, you're running on fume. With it, you're running on something closer to fuel. But you've been treating it like an indulgence. Something you squeeze in between the real obligations of showing up and participating and maintaining the social fiction that you're just like everyone else. You're not like everyone else. And the energy you're spending pretending to be is the energy you could be using to actually build something that matters to you. Here's what nobody tells you about canceled plans. They don't just give you your evening back. They give you permission to stop performing for a few hours, to let your face relax into its actual expression instead of the engaged, interested face you've been holding all day. To let your voice drop back to its natural cadence instead of the upbeat tone you use when you're trying to match someone else's energy. That relief you feel isn't laziness. It's your body recognizing that it doesn't have to work right now. Think about the last conversation you had with someone who wanted something from you. Doesn't matter what. Their attention, your opinion, your time. You gave it to them because that's what people do. You engaged. You responded. You showed interest even if you didn't feel it. Now think about the last conversation you had with yourself. The one where you were just thinking through a problem or working something out in your head or following some thread of curiosity without any destination in mind. Which one felt more real? The one with yourself. Because when you're alone, you're not translating your thoughts into socially acceptable formats. You're not editing for audience. You're not checking your tone or your word choice or whether what you're thinking would sound weird if you said it out loud. You're just thinking, and that unedited, unperformed thinking is where everything interesting actually happens for you. Every genuine insight, every real understanding, every creative idea that matters. But you've been taught to treat that internal conversation like it's less valuable than the external ones. Like spending time in your own head is somehow inferior to spending time in someone else's presence. It's not inferior. It's different. And for your specific wiring, it's necessary. You know how you check out during group conversations? Not completely. You're still nodding and making eye contact and responding when someone asks you a direct question. But part of you isn't there. Part of you left about 20 minutes into the dinner party, and you've just been running the social protocol on autopilot while your actual attention is somewhere else entirely. That's not rude. That's your system trying to conserve energy by automating the performance. Most people don't notice because the performance is good enough. You've practiced it for years. You know all the moves. Lean in when someone's telling a story. Laugh at the punchline. Ask a follow-up question to show engagement. Mirror their energy levels so they feel heard. It works, but it's costing you something they don't see. Every minute you maintain that performance, your actual energy is draining somewhere in the background. And when you finally get home and close the door behind you, the first thing you do is collapse. Not physically. You might even be moving around, doing dishes or checking your phone or whatever. But inside, you're collapsed. You're running on empty, and you need hours, not minutes. Hours of absolutely nobody needing anything from you before you feel like yourself again. Other people don't need that recovery time. They come home from social events feeling energized, connected, happy, ready to text their friends about plans for next week, ready to process the evening by talking about it with someone else. You come home and need silence like oxygen. Here's what solitude actually gives you that groups steal: access to yourself. Not the performed version, not the translated for other people version, the actual raw, unedited version that thinks strange thoughts and follows weird tangents and doesn't have to explain itself to anyone. That version is where all your best work lives, but you can't reach it when you're managing someone else's perception of you. The cognitive load of social performance blocks access to the deeper stuff. You're too busy tracking the conversation, monitoring your tone, making sure you're coming across the right way. When you're alone, all that tracking stops. And suddenly you can think about things that matter instead of things that are socially appropriate. You can follow ideas all the way to their conclusion instead of stopping when someone else wants to talk. You can work at your actual pace instead of the pace required to keep a group engaged. This isn't antisocial. This is how you access your capacity. Think about what you know about yourself versus what other people think they know. They think they know you. They've seen your performance enough times to believe it's real. They think you're sociable, engaged, maybe a little quiet, but fundamentally like them. They have no idea. They don't know that every social obligation on your calendar fills you with low-level dread. They don't know that you schedule recovery time after seeing them the way someone else would schedule a nap after donating blood. They don't know that your best ideas come at 2 a.m. when you've been alone for 8 hours and your brain has finally stopped performing and started actually thinking. And you can't tell them. Because if you tell them, they'll try to fix you. They'll suggest therapy or medication or pushing through the discomfort or exposing yourself to more social situations to build tolerance. They'll treat your wiring like a problem to solve instead of information to use. So you keep performing. You keep showing up. You keep pretending that this is just how life works for everyone, but it's not how life works for you. And every year you spend forcing yourself into their pattern is a year you're not building something aligned with yours. Here's the choice nobody admits exists. You can honor your wiring or fight it. Most people fight it. They push through the exhaustion. They force themselves to say yes to invitations even when every cell in their body is screaming no. They build lives that require constant social performance because that's what functional adults do. And they wonder why they're always tired. Why they never have energy for the things they actually care about. Why their creative projects sit unfinished for years. Why they feel most like themselves in the brief windows between obligations when nobody needs anything from them. You already know why. Your energy is going into maintaining a performance that doesn't serve you. Into pretending your wiring is different than it is. Into showing up for a version of life that works for other people, but quietly kills something in you every time you participate. What would change if you stopped? Not stopped completely. You still need some social connection. But stopped pretending you need as much as everyone else seems to. Stop forcing yourself to match their frequency. Stopped apologizing for the fact that your battery runs down faster than theirs. What if you built a life around how you actually work instead of how you're supposed to work? That would require some honesty, the kind of honesty that makes people uncomfortable. Telling someone you can only see them once a month instead of once a week. Admitting that dinner parties drain you even when they're fun. Explaining that you need hours alone not because you're avoiding them, but because that's when you actually function. Most people won't understand. They'll think you're being difficult or antisocial or that you just need to try harder because their experience is so different from yours that they literally can't imagine what you're describing. To them, isolation is punishment. To you, it's restoration. But some people will understand, usually because they're wired the same way. And those are the only people whose understanding actually matters. The rest can keep thinking whatever they want. Let them believe you're shy or distant or just need to come out of your shell. Let them keep inviting you to things you'll politely decline. Let them think you're missing out on connection. You're not missing out. You're choosing what actually works. Notice what you're feeling right this second. Not about the ideas, about yourself, about the fact that maybe you've been fighting your own wiring for years, thinking it was the problem, when really the problem was pretending the wiring didn't exist. There's probably relief somewhere in your chest, because someone finally said it. You're not broken. You're not damaged. You're not failing at being human. You're just built for isolation in a world that treats connection as the default. And every year you spend trying to fix that is a year you're not using it. Your best work happens alone. Your clearest thinking happens alone. Your clearest thinking happens alone. Your most authentic self exists alone. Not because you're running away from people, but because you're running toward the part of yourself that can't function in performance mode. That part matters, more than the social obligations, more than the expectations, more than the polite fiction that you're just like everyone else. You're not like everyone else. And the energy you've been spending trying to be is the energy you need to actually build something worth building. So what changes? You stop apologizing for needing more alone time than seems normal, for declining invitations without elaborate excuses, for building a life that looks isolated from the outside but feels right from the inside. You stop pretending. That social events energize you, that you love spending time with people. That connection is the highest form of human experience. For you, it's not. Depth is. And depth requires isolation. You stop forcing yourself to show up when every signal in your body says stay home. Yourself to maintain relationships that only drain without giving back. Yourself to perform enthusiasm for a social life that was never designed for how you actually work. And you start using the truth. Your nervous system settles in isolation. Your creativity activates in silence. Your best thinking happens when nobody else's voice is in the room. That's not a bug. That's your feature. The one you've been apologizing for instead of using. Right now your body knows something your mind keeps trying to argue with. It knows that the relief you feel when plans cancel isn't something to fix. It's something to listen to. Because your wiring isn't wrong. It's just rare. And you've spent so much time trying to hide it that you forgot what it's actually for.